asking the right questions is a lot easier said than done. So invest the time to write good questions. Think about discovery-oriented questions that are going to begin by exploring the problem space. You don't want to just walk in and say, here's my product, and then start drilling them on the features and functions of the product. Start a bit broader. Start higher up the funnel. Talk about the problem space. What do they think about the problem? Is it significant? Is it urgent? Is it critical? From there, begin to explore some of their current behavior and feelings about the product. Some of the key benefits that your product might fit to the problem that you all have previously discussed. Talk to a bit about what they like and dislike about competing products and how that might be similar or different from your product. Also, you're not trying to sell them the product. It's not an advertising session. You're not trying to get them to pay you and walk out the door with your product today. You're instead trying to get an honest sense of what are people going to think about your product when they see it and you're not standing in front of them. If they see it online, if they see it on an online retail site, if they see it on a store shelf or on a rack, what are they going to think about it? That's what we're trying to get to. You're not going to have the opportunity for most products to try and sell every customer on a face-to-face basis. So instead, you're trying to get insights that's going to help you sell more effectively when you're not face-to-face with someone. Also, transition to product feedback questions from there. Avoid leading questions like, that was easy, right? You love it, right? That's not good. That's not the way to do it. You want objective feedback. You don't want to lead them. You want to be impartial. You don't want it to even be obvious that you're the one that wrote the questions or that your future and your economic well-being might be dependent on their answer. That's too much pressure. It's out of context. It'll bias your results. Simply ask and observe. Seek to understand why they're giving you the feedback that they're giving you. Don't get caught up on is it positive or not positive. Not positive is really more valuable because that gives you the opportunity to enhance and improve and clarify in future versions of the product as you refine it. Ask open questions. So in this sense, it's not just yes or no, what I mean by open versus closed, but it's things like, do you select which flight to book based on price? Or, how do you select which flight to book? Subtle wording. The first bullet, do you, is what I will call a closed question. You've already closed their thinking a little bit, and you've already signaled that pricing is core to what you're trying to get a handle on with your product. The second question, much more open. How do you select which flight to book? They might say price. They might say convenience. They might say something different. You don't know unless you give them the opportunity to respond. Open questions give the user that broad latitude. So instead of do questions, think about why and how and what as you're framing your question. That's a good signal that you're asking the right kind of question. It's also okay to have pauses, to have silence. How do you select which flight to book? It's okay to give them 5 seconds, 10 seconds, a minute to kind of formulate their thoughts before they reply. Don't try and fill in the gap. Don't try and fill in the quiet time. Don't try and interrupt their thinking or interrupt their response. Also, think about how you're going to interpret the survey results. A good analogy here would be sports. If you've never been bowling, you don't exactly know how to win. You don't exactly know how to score. You think knocking pins down is good, but you might not exactly know the value of knocking more pins down or all the pins down, or how many chances you're going to have. So you need the rules of the game before you start doing these interviews. So think about what questions you're going to ask, what insights you're going to draw, and how you're going to score people based on those responses, so that at the end you're going to be able to have something that's actionable, that you're going to be able to translate that data that's going to be fairly subjective into something that you can quantify. So I would build my score sheet first for how I want to go about doing the analysis of the interviews before I start doing the interviews. I don't want to just go to a bowling alley, spend an hour, and then ask somebody how I did if I don't even know how the scoring works. I want to know how the scoring works first. So keep that in mind as you're going through and developing your interview questions and how you're going to analyze them.